Welcome to Tech with Kaushik. This is part 11 of our complete practice question series for the CLF-C02, AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner exam. Choose your answer before the timer ends, then review the correct answer, explanation, and exam tip. Let us begin part 11. Question number 550. An organization has a compliance requirement to record and evaluate configuration changes, as well as perform remediation actions on AWS. Resources. What AWS service should the company use? Option A. AWS Config. Option B. AWS Secrets Manager. Option C. AWS CloudTrail. Option D. AWS Trusted Advisor. The correct answer is A. AWS Config. Here is why. AWS Config records resource configuration changes, evaluates them against rules, and supports automated remediation actions. Why are the other options not correct? B. Secrets Manager stores and rotates application secrets. C. CloudTrail records API activity but is not the configuration compliance service. D. Trusted Advisor provides recommendations rather than continuous rule evaluation. Exam tip. Config tracks configurations, CloudTrail records API activity. Question number 551. An organization plans to perform a one-time migration of a large dataset with millions of files from its on-premises data center to the AWS cloud. What AWS service should the company use for the migration? Option A. AWS Database Migration Service, AWS DMS. Option B. AWS Data Sync. Option C. AWS Migration Hub. Option D. AWS Application Migration Service. The correct answer is B. AWS Data Sync. Here is why. Data Sync automates and accelerates large file transfers between on-premises storage and supported AWS storage services. Why are the other options not correct? A. AWS DMS migrates supported databases. C. Migration Hub centrally tracks migration progress. D. Application Migration Service migrates servers and applications. Exam tip. DataSync transfers files, DMS migrates databases. Question number 552. What AWS network services or features allow CIDR block notation when providing an IP address range? Choose 2. Option A. Security groups. Option B. Amazon Machine Image, AMI. Option C. Network Access Control List, Network ACL. Option D. AWS Budgets. E. Amazon Elastic Block Store, Amazon EBS. The correct answer is A. Security groups, C. Network Access Control List, Network ACL. Here is why. Both security group rules and network ACL rules can specify IP version 4 or IP version 6 address ranges by using CIDR notation. Why are the other options not correct? B. An AMI is a template for launching compute instances. D. AWS Budgets tracks cost or usage against thresholds. E. Amazon EBS provides block storage. Exam tip. Security groups and network ACLs accept CIDR ranges in traffic rules. Question number 553. An organization needs to develop an accessibility application that will convert text into audible speech. What AWS service can satisfy this requirement? Option A. Amazon MQ. Option B. Amazon Poly. Option C. Amazon Neptune. Option D. Amazon TimeStream. The correct answer is B. Amazon Poly. Here is why. Amazon Poly converts written text into lifelike speech for accessibility, content, and voice-enabled applications. Why are the other options not correct? A. Amazon MQ provides managed message brokers. C. Neptune is a managed graph database. D. TimeStream is a managed time series database. Exam tip. Poly converts text to speech, transcribe converts speech to text. Question number 554. An organization needs to set up dedicated network connectivity between its on-premises data center and the AWS cloud. The network cannot use the public internet. What AWS service or feature can satisfy these requirements? Option A. AWS Transit Gateway. Option B. AWS VPN. Option C. Amazon CloudFront. Option D. AWS Direct Connect. The correct answer is D. AWS Direct Connect. Here is why. Direct Connect provides dedicated private network connectivity from an on-premises location to AWS without using the public internet. Why are the other options not correct? A. Transit Gateway centrally connects networks but does not create the physical connection. B. AWS VPN generally sends encrypted traffic over the public internet. C. CloudFront is a global content delivery network. Exam tip. Direct Connect is dedicated, site-to-site VPN uses the internet. Question number 555. An organization needs to use dashboards and charts to analyze insights from business data. What AWS service will provide the dashboards and charts for these insights? Option A. Amazon May-C. Option B. Amazon Aurora. Option C. Amazon QuickSight. Option D. AWS CloudTrail. The correct answer is C. Amazon QuickSight. Here is why. Amazon QuickSight provides managed business intelligence, interactive dashboards, charts, and visual analysis. Why are the other options not correct? A. Macy discovers and helps protect sensitive data in Amazon S3. B. Aurora is a managed relational database. D. CloudTrail records supported API and account activity. Exam tip. QuickSight turns business data into dashboards and visualizations. Question number 556. An organization needs to migrate its on-premises infrastructure to the AWS cloud. What advantage of cloud computing will help the company reduce upfront costs? Option A. Go global in minutes. Option B. Increase speed and agility. Option C. Benefit from massive economies of scale. Option D. Trade fixed expense for variable expense. The correct answer is D. Trade fixed expense for variable expense. Here is why. AWS reduces the need for large upfront infrastructure purchases by charging for resources as they are consumed. Why are the other options not correct? A. Global reach concerns rapid deployment in geographic locations. B. Speed and agility concern rapid experimentation and provisioning. C. Economies of scale can reduce unit prices but do not directly describe upfront cost. Exam tip. Pay-as-you-go replaces much upfront capital spending with variable expense. Question number 557. An organization is designing workloads in the AWS cloud. The company wants the workloads to perform their intended function correctly and consistently throughout their lifecycle. What pillar of the AWS well-architected framework does this goal represent? Option A. Operational excellence. Option B. Security. Option C. Reliability. Option D. Performance efficiency. The correct answer is C. Reliability. Here is why. Reliability focuses on workloads performing their intended functions correctly and consistently throughout their lifecycle. Why are the other options not correct? A. Operational excellence focuses on operations and continuous improvement. B. Security focuses on protecting information, systems, and assets. D. Performance efficiency focuses on efficient resource use. Exam tip. Reliability means performing intended functions consistently and recovering from failure. The correct answer is B. AWS Security Token Service, AWS STS. Here is why. AWS STS issues temporary security credentials for federated identities, IAM roles, and other authorized access scenarios. Why are the other options not correct? A. Guard duty detects malicious activity and unauthorized behavior. C. Secrets manager stores and rotates application secrets. D. Certificate manager provisions and manages supported TLS certificates. Exam tip. AWS STS provides temporary credentials. IAM policies define permissions. Question number 559. What is a benefit of using an elastic load balancing (ELB) load balancer with applications running in the AWS cloud? Option A. An ELB will automatically scale resources to meet capacity needs. Option B. An ELB can balance traffic across multiple compute resources. Option C. An ELB can span multiple AWS regions. Option D. An ELB can balance traffic between multiple internet gateways. The correct answer is B. An ELB can balance traffic across multiple compute resources. Here is why. Elastic load balancing distributes incoming traffic across healthy targets such as EC2 instances, containers, and IP addresses. Why are the other options not correct? A. Autoscaling changes resource capacity, ELB distributes traffic. C. An individual ELB load balancer is regional and does not span regions. D. ELB does not balance traffic between internet gateways. Exam tip. ELB distributes traffic, autoscaling adjusts compute capacity. Question number 560. An organization needs to securely store Amazon or DS database credentials and automatically rotate user passwords periodically. What AWS service or capability can satisfy these requirements? Option A. Amazon S3. Option B. AWS Systems Manager Parameter Store. Option C. AWS Secrets Manager. Option D. AWS Cloud Trail. The correct answer is C. AWS Secrets Manager. Here is why. Secrets Manager securely stores database credentials and supports automatic rotation of supported RDS database passwords. Why are the other options not correct? A. Amazon S3 is object storage and is not a credential rotation service. B. Parameter store stores configuration and secrets but is not the direct managed rotation choice. D. Cloud Trail records API activity. Exam tip. Secrets Manager stores and rotates credentials and application secrets. Question number 561. An organization needs to have the ability to set up infrastructure for new applications in minutes. What advantage of cloud computing will help the company satisfy this requirement? Option A. Trade fixed expense for variable expense. Option B. Go global in minutes. Option C. Increase speed and agility. Option D. Stop guessing capacity. The correct answer is C. Increase speed and agility. Here is why. AWS lets companies provision infrastructure in minutes, accelerating experimentation, development, and deployment. Why are the other options not correct? A. Variable expense concerns usage-based cloud economics. B. Going global concerns deployment in geographic locations. D. Stopping capacity guesses concerns elasticity. Exam tip. Agility is the ability to provision and experiment quickly. Question number 562. An organization needs a managed NFS file system that the company can use with its AWS compute resources. What AWS service or feature can satisfy these requirements? Option A. Amazon Elastic Block Store, Amazon EBS. Option B. AWS Storage Gateway Tape Gateway. Option C. Amazon S3 Glacier Flexible Retrieval. Option D. Amazon Elastic File System, Amazon EFS. The correct answer is D. Amazon Elastic File System, Amazon EFS. Here is why. Amazon EFS provides managed, elastic NFS file storage that can be shared by supported AWS compute resources. Why are the other options not correct? A. Amazon EBS provides block storage for compute instances. B. Tape Gateway provides virtual tape storage for backup applications. C. Glacier Flexible Retrieval is an archival object storage class. Exam tip. EFS is shared NFS file storage, EBS is block storage. Question number 563. An organization plans to migrate to the AWS cloud. The company needs to gather information about its on-premises data center. What AWS service should the company use to satisfy these requirements? Option A. AWS Application Discovery Service. Option B. AWS Data Sync. Option C. AWS Storage Gateway. Option D. AWS Database Migration Service, AWS DMS. The correct answer is A. AWS Application Discovery Service. Here is why. Application Discovery Service historically collected inventory, configuration, utilization, and dependency data from on-premises environments for migration planning. Why are the other options not correct? B. Data Sync transfers files and object data. C. Storage Gateway provides hybrid access between on-premises systems and AWS storage. D. AWS DMS migrates supported databases. Exam tip. Use discovery tooling to understand workloads before selecting migration methods. Question number 564. What tasks are responsibilities of the customer under the AWS shared responsibility model? Choose 2. Option A. Secure the virtualization layer. Option B. Encrypt data and maintain data integrity. Option C. Patch the Amazon RDS operating system. Option D. Maintain identity and access management controls. E. Secure availability zones. The correct answer is B. Encrypt data and maintain data integrity. D. Maintain identity and access management controls. Here is why. Customers protect their data and configure identities, permissions, and access controls for their AWS environments. Why are the other options not correct? A. AWS secures the virtualization layer. C. AWS patches the operating system underlying Amazon RDS. E. AWS secures the infrastructure that operates availability zones. Exam tip. Customers manage data protection and access. AWS manages cloud infrastructure. Question number 565. An online retail company needs to migrate its on-premises workload to AWS. The company needs to automatically handle a seasonal workload increase in a cost-effective manner. What AWS cloud features will help the company satisfy this requirement? Choose 2. Option A. Cross-region workload deployment. Option B. Pay-as-you-go pricing. Option C. Built-in AWS CloudTrail audit capabilities. Option D. Auto-scaling policies. E. Centralized logging. The correct answer is B. Pay-as-you-go pricing. D. Auto-scaling policies. Here is why. Auto-scaling adjusts capacity as seasonal demand changes, and pay-as-you-go pricing charges for resources as they are consumed. Why are the other options not correct? A. Cross-region deployment supports geographic resilience, not automatic seasonal scaling. C. CloudTrail provides an audit trail. E. Centralized logging improves visibility but does not scale workload capacity. Exam tip. Auto-scaling matches capacity to demand, pay-as-you-go limits idle cost. Question number 566. What AWS service can create a private network connection from on-premises to the AWS cloud? Option A. AWS Config. Option B. Virtual Private Cloud, Amazon VPC. Option C. AWS Direct Connect. Option D. Amazon Route 53. The correct answer is C. AWS Direct Connect. Here is why. Direct Connect establishes dedicated private connectivity between an on-premises network and AWS. Why are the other options not correct? A. AWS config tracks resource configuration and compliance. B. Amazon VPC provides an isolated cloud network but not the external connection by itself. D. Route 53 provides DNS and traffic routing. Exam tip. Direct Connect provides dedicated private connectivity to AWS. Question number 567. Under the AWS shared responsibility model, which of the following is a responsibility of the customer? Option A. Shred disk drives before they leave a data center. Option B. Prevent customers from gathering packets or collecting traffic at the hypervisor level. Option C. Patch the guest operating system with the latest security patches. Option D. Maintain security systems that provide physical monitoring of data centers. The correct answer is C. Patch the guest operating system with the latest security patches. Here is why. Customers maintain and patch the guest operating systems that they run on Amazon EC2 instances. Why are the other options not correct? A. AWS securely decommissions physical storage devices. B. AWS secures the hypervisor and prevents cross-customer traffic collection. D. AWS maintains physical data center monitoring and security systems. Exam tip. Customers patch EC2 guest systems, AWS protects physical infrastructure. Question number 568. What AWS service uses speech-to-text conversion to help users create meeting notes? Option A. Amazon Poly. Option B. Amazon Textract. Option C. Amazon Recognition. Option D. Amazon Transcribe. The correct answer is D. Amazon Transcribe. Here is why. Amazon Transcribe converts speech and audio into text that can be used for transcripts and meeting notes. Why are the other options not correct? A. Poly converts text into speech. B. Textract extracts text and structured data from documents. C. Recognition analyzes images and video. Exam tip. Transcribe is speech to text, Poly is text to speech. Question number 569. What AWS service or tool provides users with a graphical interface that they can use to manage AWS services? Option A. AWS Copilot. Option B. AWS CLI. Option C. AWS Management Console. Option D. AWS Software Development Kits, SDKs. The correct answer is C. AWS Management Console. Here is why. The AWS Management Console is a browser-based graphical interface for accessing and managing AWS services. Why are the other options not correct? A. AWS Copilot is a command-line tool for containerized applications. B. The AWS CLI manages services through command-line commands. D. AWS SDKs let application code interact with AWS services. Exam tip. Console is graphical, CLI is command-line, SDKs are for application code. Question number 570. An organization has a workload that will run continuously for 1 year. The workload cannot tolerate service interruptions. What Amazon EC2 purchasing option will be most cost-effective? Option A. All upfront reserved instances. Option B. A partial upfront reserved instances. Option C. Dedicated instances. Option D. On-demand instances. The correct answer is A. All upfront reserved instances. Here is why. A 1-year reserved instance suits predictable continuous usage. The all upfront payment option provides the largest discount compared with other RI payment options. Why are the other options not correct? B. Partial upfront reserved instances provide a smaller discount than all upfront. C. Dedicated instances address tenant isolation rather than lowest cost. D. On-demand instances avoid commitments but normally cost more for continuous usage. Exam tip. All upfront RIs maximize discounts for predictable continuous EC2 usage. Question number 571. An organization migrated its systems to the AWS cloud. The systems are right-sized, and a security review did not reveal any issues. The company must ensure that additional developments, integrations, changes, and system usage growth do not jeopardize this optimized AWS infrastructure. What AWS service should the company use to report ongoing optimization and security? Option A. AWS Trusted Advisor. Option B. AWS Health Dashboard. Option C. Amazon Connect. Option D. AWS Systems Manager. The correct answer is A. AWS Trusted Advisor. Here is why. Trusted Advisor continually checks AWS environments and reports recommendations for cost optimization, security, performance, resilience, and quotas. Why are the other options not correct? B. AWS Health reports service and account health events. C. Amazon Connect is a managed cloud contact center service. D. Systems Manager manages and operates supported resources. Exam tip. Trusted Advisor provides ongoing AWS best practice checks and recommendations. Question number 572. What AWS service integrates with other AWS services to provide the ability to encrypt data at rest? Option A. AWS Key Management Service, AWS KMS. Option B. AWS Certificate Manager, ACM. Option C. AWS Identity and Access Management, IAM. Option D. AWS Security Hub. The correct answer is A. AWS Key Management Service, AWS KMS. Here is why. AWS KMS creates and controls encryption keys and integrates with many AWS services to encrypt data at rest. Why are the other options not correct? B. ACM provisions and manages supported TLS certificates. C. IAM manages identities and permissions. D. Security Hub aggregates and prioritizes security findings. Exam tip. KMS manages encryption keys, ACM manages supported TLS certificates. Question number 573. An organization needs to track the monthly cost and usage of all Amazon EC2 instances in a specific AWS environment. What AWS service or tool can satisfy these requirements? Option A. AWS Cost Anomaly Detection. Option B. AWS Budgets. Option C. AWS Compute Optimizer. Option D. AWS Trusted Advisor. The correct answer is B. AWS Budgets. Here is why. AWS Budgets can track monthly EC2 cost and usage within a filtered scope and notify the company when configured thresholds are reached. Why are the other options not correct? A. Cost Anomaly Detection identifies unusual spending patterns. C. Compute Optimizer recommends resource configurations from utilization data. D. Trusted Advisor provides best practice recommendations. Exam tip. Budgets tracks cost or usage against limits and can send alerts. Question number 574. An organization wants the ability to automatically acquire resources as needed and release the resources when they are no longer needed. What cloud concept describes this functionality? Option A. Availability. Option B. Elasticity. Option C. Durability. Option D. Reliability. The correct answer is B. Elasticity. Here is why. Elasticity automatically adds resources as demand rises and releases them when demand falls, matching capacity to current workload needs. Why are the other options not correct? A. Availability concerns continued access to a workload. C. Durability concerns long-term data preservation. D. Reliability concerns correct operation and recovery from failures. Exam tip. Elasticity dynamically matches resources to changing demand. Question number 575. An organization wants a cost-effective option when running its applications in an Amazon EC2 instance for short time periods. The applications can be interrupted. What EC2 instance type can satisfy these requirements? Option A, spot instances. Option B, on-demand instances. Option C, reserved instances. Option D, dedicated instances. The correct answer is A, spot instances. Here is why. Spot instances provide discounted spare EC2 capacity for short workloads that can tolerate interruption. Why are the other options not correct? B, on-demand avoids commitment but normally costs more than spot. C, reserved instances suit predictable sustained usage with a commitment. D, dedicated instances address tenant isolation rather than minimum cost. Exam tip. Use spot for interruption-tolerant workloads that need the lowest EC2 price. Question number 576. An organization has an AWS Business Support Plan. The company needs to gain access to the AWS DDoS response team, DRT, to help mitigate DDoS events. What AWS service or resource must the company use to satisfy these requirements? Option A, AWS Shield Standard. Option B, AWS Enterprise Support. Option C, AWS WAF. Option D, AWS Shield Advanced. The correct answer is D, AWS Shield Advanced. Here is why. Shield Advanced provides access to the AWS Shield response team for eligible customers that also have business or enterprise-level AWS support. Why are the other options not correct? A, Shield Standard provides automatic baseline protection but not response team access. B, a support plan alone does not provide the advanced DDoS protection subscription. C, AWS WAF filters web requests but does not provide response team access by itself. Exam tip. Shield Advanced plus eligible support provides expert DDoS response assistance. Question number 577. What AWS service or tool provides a visualization of historical AWS spending patterns and projections of future AWS costs? Option A, AWS Cost and Usage Report. Option B, AWS Budgets. Option C, Cost Explorer. Option D, Amazon Cloud Watch. The correct answer is C, Cost Explorer. Here is why. Cost Explorer visualizes historical AWS cost and usage patterns and can produce forecasted cost projections. Why are the other options not correct? A, Cost and usage reports provide detailed billing data for analysis. B, AWS Budgets track spending against thresholds and sends alerts. D, a CloudWatch monitors operational metrics, logs, and alarms. Exam tip. Cost Explorer analyzes spending trends and forecasts future costs. Question number 578. An organization is migrating to the AWS cloud instead of running its infrastructure on premises. Which of the following are advantages of this migration? Choose 2. Option A, the elimination of the need to perform security auditing. Option B, increased global reach and agility. Option C, ability to deploy globally in minutes. Option D, elimination of the cost of IT staff members. E, redundancy by default for all compute services. The correct answer is B, increased global reach and agility. C, ability to deploy globally in minutes. Here is why. AWS provides worldwide infrastructure and rapid resource provisioning, enabling companies to expand geographically and deploy or experiment quickly. Why are the other options not correct? A, customers still must audit and secure their AWS environments. D, cloud adoption does not eliminate the need for IT personnel. E, compute services are not automatically redundant without resilient design. Exam tip. AWS provides global reach and agility, but resilience still requires design choices. Question number 579. What AWS service uses edge locations to cache content? Option A, Amazon Kinesis. Option B, Amazon Simple Queue Service, Amazon SQS. Option C, Amazon CloudFront. Option D, Amazon Route 53. The correct answer is C, Amazon CloudFront. Here is why. CloudFront caches and delivers supported content through global edge locations to reduce latency for users. Why are the other options not correct? A. Kinesis processes real-time streaming data. B. Amazon SQS provides durable message queues. D. Route 53 provides DNS and traffic routing services. Exam tip. CloudFront caches content at edge locations, Route 53 provides DNS. Question number 580. An organization needs to securely access an Amazon S3 bucket from an Amazon EC2 instance without accessing the internet. What should the company use to accomplish this goal? Option A, a VPN connection. Option B, Internet Gateway. Option C, VPC endpoint. Option D, NAT Gateway. The correct answer is C, VPC endpoint. Here is why. An S3 VPC endpoint provides private connectivity from a VPC to Amazon S3 without requiring an Internet Gateway, NAT Gateway, or public Internet path. Why are the other options not correct? A VPN connects an external network to a WSB, an Internet Gateway provides Internet connectivity. D. A NAT Gateway provides outbound Internet access for private resources. Exam tip. Use an S3 VPC endpoint for private VPC to S3 connectivity. Question number 581. An organization wants an AWS service that can automate software deployment in Amazon EC2 instances and on-premises instances. What AWS service can satisfy this requirement? Option A. AWS Code Commit. Option B. AWS Code Build. Option C. AWS Code Deploy. Option D. AWS Code Pipeline. The correct answer is C. AWS Code Deploy. Here is why. Code Deploy automates application software deployments to supported targets, including Amazon EC2 instances and on-premises servers. Why are the other options not correct? A. Code Commit is a source code repository service. B. Code Build compiles source code and runs tests. D. Code Pipeline coordinates stages in a continuous delivery workflow. Exam tip. Code Deploy automates releases to EC2 and on-premises compute targets. Question number 582. What AWS services are serverless? Choose 2. Option A. AWS Fargate. Option B, Amazon Managed Streaming for Apache Kafka. Option C, Amazon EMR. Option D, Amazon S3. E, Amazon EC2. The correct answer is A. AWS Fargate, D, Amazon S3. Here is why. Fargate runs containers without server management, and Amazon S3 provides object storage without customers provisioning or operating storage servers. Why are the other options not correct? B. Amazon MSK can use provision clusters, only MSK Serverless is serverless. C. Amazon EMR commonly provisions and manages clusters for big data processing. E. Amazon EC2 provides customer-managed virtual servers. Exam tip. Serverless services remove server provisioning and infrastructure management. Question number 583. Which one of the following is a customer responsibility under the AWS Shared Responsibility Model? Option A. Apply security patches for Amazon S3 infrastructure devices. Option B. Provide physical security for AWS data centers. Option C. Install operating system updates on Lambda at Edge. Option D. Implement multi-factor authentication, MFA, for IAM user accounts. The correct answer is D. Implement multi-factor authentication, MFA, for IAM user accounts. Here is why. Customers configure IAM identities and security controls, including enabling MFA for IAM users. Why are the other options not correct? A. AWS patches and maintains the infrastructure that operates Amazon S3. B. AWS provides physical security for its data centers. C. AWS manages the operating system and infrastructure for Lambda at Edge. Exam tip. Customers manage IAM credentials, permissions, and MFA. Question number 584. What AWS service should a company use to organize, characterize, and search large numbers of images? Option A. Amazon Transcribe. Option B. Amazon Recognition. Option C. Amazon Aurora. Option D. Amazon QuickSight. The correct answer is B. Amazon Recognition. Here is why. Amazon Recognition analyzes images and can detect, label, organize, and search visual content at scale. Why are the other options not correct? A. Transcribe converts speech into text. C. Aurora is a managed relational database. D. QuickSight creates business intelligence dashboards. Exam tip. Recognition analyzes images and video, transcribe processes speech. Question number 585. What AWS service is always available free of charge to users? Option A. Amazon Athena. Option B. AWS Identity and Access Management, IAM. Option C. AWS Secrets Manager. Option D. Amazon Elastic Cache. The correct answer is B. AWS Identity and Access Management, IAM. Here is why. AWS IAM is provided without an additional service charge. Customers pay for other AWS resources that authorized identities access. Why are the other options not correct? A. Athena charges for query processing and related resources. C. Secrets Manager has usage-based charges. D. Elastic Cache charges for provisioned or consumed resources. Exam tip. IAM has no additional charge, but access to AWS resources can still incur costs. Question number 586. An organization needs to run some of its workloads on premises to comply with regulatory guidelines. The company needs to use the AWS cloud to run workloads that are not required to be on premises. The company also needs to be able to use the same API calls for the on-premises workloads and the cloud workloads. What AWS service or feature should the company use to satisfy these requirements? Option A. Dedicated hosts. Option B. AWS outposts. Option C. Availability zones. Option D. AWS wavelength. The correct answer is B. AWS outposts. Here is why. Outposts extends AWS infrastructure and supported services to an on-premises location while using familiar AWS APIs and management tools. Why are the other options not correct? A. Dedicated hosts provide dedicated physical EC2 servers in AWS regions. C. Availability zones are isolated locations within AWS regions. D. Wavelength places AWS services in telecommunications provider networks. Exam tip. Outposts runs AWS infrastructure on premises with consistent AWS APIs. Question number 587. What is the recommended use case for Amazon EC2 on-demand instances? Option A. A steady-state workload that requires a particular EC2 instance configuration for a long period of time. Option B. A workload that can be interrupted for a project that requires the lowest possible cost. Option C. An unpredictable workload that does not require a long-term commitment. Option D. A workload that is expected to run for longer than 1 year. The correct answer is C. An unpredictable workload that does not require a long-term commitment. Here is why. On-demand instances provide flexible EC2 capacity without an upfront payment or long-term usage commitment. Why are the other options not correct? A. Long-running steady usage can benefit from commitment-based discounts. B. Interruption-tolerant workloads seeking minimum cost can use spot instances. D. Workloads running beyond 1 year can benefit from a commitment. Exam tip. Use on-demand for unpredictable workloads that need flexibility without commitment. Question number 588. An organization needs to use an AWS networking solution that can act as a centralized gateway between multiple VPCs and on-premises networks. What AWS service or feature can satisfy this requirement? Option A gateway VPC endpoint. Option B, AWS Direct Connect. Option C, AWS Transit Gateway. Option D, AWS Private Link. The correct answer is C, AWS Transit Gateway. Here is why. Transit Gateway acts as a central network hub for connecting multiple VPCs and on-premises networks. Why are the other options not correct? A gateway endpoint privately connects a VPC to supported AWS services. B. Direct Connect provides dedicated connectivity from on-premises to AWS. D. Private Link provides private access to supported services. Exam tip. Transit Gateway provides hub-and-spoke connectivity for many networks. Question number 589. To assist companies with payment card industry data security standard, PCI DSS, compliance in the cloud, AWS provides. Option A, physical inspections of data centers by appointment. Option B, required PCI compliance certifications for any application running on AWS. Option C, an AWS attestation of compliance, AOC, report for specific AWS services. Option D, professional PCI compliance services. The correct answer is C, an AWS attestation of compliance, AOC, report for specific AWS services. Here is why. AWS provides a PCI DSS attestation of compliance that identifies the AWS services and controls included within its assessed compliance scope. Why are the other options not correct? A. Customers cannot schedule physical data center inspections. B. Customers remain responsible for their own applications in PCI compliance. D. AWS does not automatically provide professional PCI compliance services. Exam tip. AWS Artifact provides AWS compliance reports. Customers secure their own workloads. Question number 590. In which situation should a company create an IAM user instead of an IAM role? Option A. When an application that runs on Amazon EC2 instances requires access to other AWS services. Option B. When the company creates AWS access credentials for individuals. Option C. When the company creates an application that runs on a mobile phone that makes requests to AWS. Option D. When the company needs to add users to IAM groups. E. When users are authenticated in the corporate network and want to be able to use AWS without having to sign in a second time. The correct answer is B. When the company creates AWS access credentials for individuals. D. When the company needs to add users to IAM groups. Here is why. IAM users can have individual long-term credentials, and only IAM users, not roles, can be members of IAM user groups. Current AWS guidance generally recommends temporary credentials and IAM roles or IAM Identity Center where possible. Why are the other options not correct? Applications running on EC2 should use an IAM role with temporary credentials. C. Mobile applications should use federated identities, such as Amazon Cognito, and temporary role credentials. E. Corporate users who need single sign-on should use Federation or IAM Identity Center with roles. Exam tip. Use IAM roles for workloads in federated access. IAM groups contain IAM users only. Question number 591. What is the total volume of data that can be stored in Amazon S3? Option A, 10 PB. Option B, 50 PB. Option C, 100 PB. Option D, virtually unlimited. The correct answer is D, virtually unlimited. Here is why. Amazon S3 is designed to store a virtually unlimited total amount of object data without customers pre-provisioning storage capacity. Why are the other options not correct? A. Amazon S3 is not limited to 10 PB of total stored data. B. Amazon S3 is not limited to 50 PB of total stored data. C. Amazon S3 is not limited to 100 PB of total stored data. Exam tip. S3 storage capacity scales to a virtually unlimited amount of object data. Question number 592. What design principle is related to the reliability pillar according to the AWS well-architected framework? Option A. Attest recovery procedures. Option B. Experiment more often. Option C. Go global in minutes. Option D. Analyze an attribute to expenditure. The correct answer is A. Test recovery procedures. Here is why. Testing recovery procedures verifies that workloads can recover from failures and that recovery mechanisms meet reliability requirements. Why are the other options not correct? B. Experimenting frequently is associated with agility and operational improvement. C. Going global concerns cloud reach and rapid geographic deployment. D. Cost analysis and attribution belong to cost optimization. Exam tip. Reliability includes testing recovery and automatically recovering from failure. Question number 593. An organization stores data in an Amazon S3 bucket. What task is the responsibility of AWS? Option A. Configure an S3 lifecycle policy. Option B. Activate S3 versioning. Option C. Configure S3 bucket policies. Option D. Protect the infrastructure that supports S3 storage. The correct answer is D. Protect the infrastructure that supports S3 storage. Here is why. AWS secures and maintains the physical and service infrastructure that operates Amazon S3. Why are the other options not correct? A. Customers configure lifecycle policies for their S3 objects. B. Customers decide whether to enable S3 versioning. C. Customers configure bucket policies and access permissions. Exam tip. AWS protects S3 infrastructure, customers manage data and access controls. Question number 594. What AWS service is a fully managed NoSQL database service? Option A. Amazon RDS. Option B. Amazon Redshift. Option C. Amazon DynamoDB. Option D. Amazon Aurora. The correct answer is C. Amazon DynamoDB. Here is why. DynamoDB is a fully managed, serverless NoSQL key value and document database. Why are the other options not correct? A. Amazon RDS provides managed relational databases. B. Amazon Redshift is a managed data warehouse. D. Amazon Aurora is a managed relational database. Exam tip. DynamoDB is NoSQL, RDS and Aurora are relational databases. Question number 595. An organization deployed an application in multiple AWS regions around the world. The company needs to improve the application's performance and availability. What AWS service can satisfy these requirements? Option A. AWS Global Accelerator. Option B. Amazon Data Zone. Option C. AWS Cloud Map. Option D. AWS Autoscaling. The correct answer is A. AWS Global Accelerator. Here is why. Global Accelerator routes users through the AWS Global Network to healthy regional endpoints, improving performance and application availability. Why are the other options not correct? B. Data Zone governs and shares organizational data. C. Cloud Map provides service discovery. D. Autoscaling adjusts resource capacity but does not optimize global network routing. Exam tip. Global Accelerator improves multi-region application performance and availability. Question number 596. An organization needs to migrate its on-premises SQL Server database to the AWS cloud. The company wants AWS to handle the day-to-day administration of the database. What AWS service will meet the company's requirements? Option A, Amazon EC2 for Microsoft SQL Server. Option B, Amazon DynamoDB. Option C, Amazon RDS. Option D, Amazon Aurora. The correct answer is C, Amazon RDS. Here is why. Amazon RDS supports Microsoft SQL Server and manages routine database tasks such as provisioning, backups, patching, and infrastructure maintenance. Why are the other options not correct? A. SQL Server on EC2 leaves more administration with the customer. B. DynamoDB is a NoSQL database. D. Aurora is compatible with MySQL and PostgreSQL, not Microsoft SQL Server. Exam tip. Use RDS for a managed SQL Server database, EC2 is more self-managed. Question number 597. An organization needs stateless network filtering for its VPC. What AWS service, tool, or feature can satisfy this requirement? Option A. AWS Private Link. Option B, Security Group. Option C, Network Access Control List, ACL. Option D, AWS WAF. The correct answer is C, Network Access Control List, ACL. Here is why. A network ACL is a stateless firewall that filters inbound and outbound traffic at the subnet boundary. Why are the other options not correct? A. Private Link provides private connectivity to supported services. B. Security groups are stateful resource-level firewalls. D. AWS WAF filters supported web requests. Exam tip. Network ACLs are stateless, security groups are stateful. Question number 598. What option is an advantage of AWS cloud computing that minimizes variable costs? Option A, high availability. Option B, economies of scale. Option C, global reach. Option D, agility. The correct answer is B, economies of scale. Here is why. AWS aggregates demand across many customers and can achieve lower variable costs than individual organizations commonly achieve on their own. Why are the other options not correct? A. High availability concerns continued service during failures. C. Global reach concerns rapid deployment near users worldwide. D. Agility concerns rapid experimentation and provisioning. Exam tip. Economies of scale reduce per unit and variable infrastructure costs. Question number 599. An organization needs to migrate its server-based applications to the AWS cloud. The company needs to determine the total cost of ownership for its compute resources that will be hosted on the AWS cloud. What combination of AWS services or tools can satisfy these requirements? Choose 2. Option A. AWS Pricing Calculator. Option B, Migration Evaluator. Option C, AWS Support Center. Option D, AWS Application Discovery Service. E. AWS Database Migration Service, AWS DMS. The correct answer is A. AWS Pricing Calculator, B. Migration Evaluator. Here is why. Pricing Calculator estimates planned AWS costs. Migration Evaluator analyzes the current environment and builds a data-driven TCO and migration business case. Why are the other options not correct? C. Support Center manages support cases and account assistance. D. Application Discovery Service gathers inventory but is not the primary TCO tool. E. AWS DMS migrates supported databases. Exam tip. Pricing Calculator estimates AWS costs, Migration Evaluator compares migration TCO. Question number 600. An organization has data lakes designed for high-performance computing, HPC, workloads. What Amazon EC2 instance type should the company use to satisfy these requirements? Option A, general-purpose instances. Option B, compute-optimized instances. Option C, memory-optimized instances. Option D, storage-optimized instances. The correct answer is B, compute-optimized instances. Here is why. Compute-optimized instances provide high-performance processors and are suited to compute-intensive workloads such as HPC and distributed data processing. Why are the other options not correct? A. General-purpose instances balance compute, memory, and networking. C. Memory-optimized instances target workloads that process large datasets in memory. D. Storage-optimized instances target high local storage throughput and IOPS. Exam tip. Use compute-optimized instances when processing power is the primary requirement. Question number 601. What benefits does a company gain when the company moves from on-premises IT architecture to the AWS cloud? Choose 2. Option A, reduced or eliminated tasks for hardware troubleshooting, capacity planning, and procurement. Option B, elimination of the need for trained IT staff. Option C, automatic security configuration of all applications that are migrated to the cloud. Option D, elimination of the need for disaster recovery planning. E, faster deployment of new features and applications. The correct answer is A, reduced or eliminated tasks for hardware troubleshooting, capacity planning, and procurement. E, faster deployment of new features and applications. Here is why. AWS manages physical infrastructure and provides on-demand resources, reducing hardware work and accelerating application deployment. Why are the other options not correct? B. Cloud adoption does not eliminate the need for skilled IT employees. C. Customers must configure application security appropriately. D. Customers must still plan for backup, resilience, and disaster recovery. Exam tip. AWS reduces infrastructure work and increases deployment agility. Question number 602. An organization is planning to migrate to the AWS cloud. The company is conducting organizational transformation and needs to become more responsive to customer inquiries and feedback. What task should the company perform to satisfy these requirements, according to the AWS Cloud Adoption Framework, AWS CAF? Choose 2. Option A, realign teams to focus on products and value streams. Option B, create new value propositions with new products and services. Option C, use agile methods to rapidly iterate and evolve. Option D, use a new data and analytics platform to create actionable insights. E, migrate and modernize legacy infrastructure. The correct answer is A, realign teams to focus on products and value streams. C, use agile methods to rapidly iterate and evolve. Here is why. AWS CAF recommends product and value stream teams with agile methods to improve responsiveness, customer focus, and organizational transformation. Why are the other options not correct? B. New value propositions concern business innovation, not the stated team change. D. A data platform supports insights but does not directly reorganize delivery teams. E. Infrastructure modernization alone does not create customer-responsive teams. Exam tip. Product-aligned teams and agile iteration improve customer responsiveness. Question number 603. An organization that is planning to migrate to the AWS cloud is based in an isolated area that has limited internet connectivity. The company needs to perform local data processing on premises. The company needs a solution that can operate without a stable internet connection. What AWS service can satisfy these requirements? Option A, Amazon S3. Option B, AWS Snowball Edge. Option C, AWS Storage Gateway. Option D, AWS Backup. The correct answer is B, AWS Snowball Edge. Here is why. Snowball Edge historically provided local compute and storage that could operate in disconnected environments and later transfer data to AWS. Why are the other options not correct? A. Direct use of Amazon S3 requires connectivity to AWS. C. Storage gateway normally depends on network connectivity to AWS storage. D. AWS Backup manages backups but is not a disconnected edge computing platform. Exam tip. Snowball Edge historically supported disconnected local processing and transfer. Question number 604. An organization needs to build graph queries for real-time fraud pattern detection. What AWS service can satisfy this requirement? Option A. Amazon Neptune. Option B. Amazon DynamoDB. Option C. Amazon TimeStream. Option D. Amazon Forecast. The correct answer is A. Amazon Neptune. Here is why. Neptune is a managed graph database designed to query relationships and identify connected patterns such as potentially fraudulent transactions. Why are the other options not correct? B. DynamoDB is a key value and document database. C. TimeStream is a time series database. D. Forecast creates time series forecasts rather than graph queries. Exam tip. Use Neptune when relationship traversal is central to the workload. You have completed part 11 of the CLF-C02 practice series. Continue your preparation by opening the complete playlist and watching the remaining parts in sequence. Please like this video, subscribe to Tech with Kaushik, and enable notifications for more certification exam preparation content. Share your score, questions, or feedback in the comments. Thank you for watching. See you in the next part.